Welcome back to the Future in Review, Conversations with FiReStarters. I'm John Wells. I'm now joined by Jeff Hussey, who's the CEO of Tempered Networks. Welcome.
Thanks. Nice to be here.
Yeah. Tell us about your company.
Well, Tempered Networks is in the cyber risk management space, and what we do is help companies who have a lot of things, typically referred to now as the industrial Internet of Things, and those things can be oil pipelines, robots, aircraft, other kinds of heavy machinery that have somehow migrated onto the public network, typically to send the telemetry data or information about those things themselves into the cloud for purposes of, predictive maintenance and higher operational efficiency. What happens is that once those devices are then connected to the public internet, they become wildly insecure and an attack vector for hacking and other kind of malicious events. What we've done is create a solution that we call the air wall. You can think of it like a firewall, but way better, that creates a logical gap between those devices and the other environments. So those devices no longer have the exposure that they have now. And our device, our solution works at scale, so it'll handle a lot of devices, and it really helps people reduce their cyber risk.
With all of the Internet of Things devices, coffee makers, washing machines, oil pipelines, everything else, they sort of break under TCP/IP, but they didn't used to. Is it something about the additional devices, all these thousands and thousands of devices, that is breaking TCP/IP?
No, it's what TCP/IP was designed to do originally. It's funny, like this month, October, we celebrate the 50th anniversary of when two guys at UCLA and Stanford connected their very large mainframes over dial-up phone lines between friends using TCP/IP. They sent a couple of characters before the network crashed, but that was then. Now, what we have is this protocol that has become the accidental backbone of global commerce and communication that everything's connected to. And we still have the same fatal flaw, which are these four little numbers, 192.168.0.1, are both the location and the identity. And that is the fatal flaw. It was fine when computers were connected between friends, but that's no longer the case. There are billions of devices that are connected, and in order to create a secure environment, you need to take a different approach. All the approaches for network security up until now have really been network first, security second.
Okay.
What we've done is change that. We just start with the secure approach and then create the network.
So the IP is still there, but
the IP is still there. But we have fixed the flaw, which is the IP is doing two things. And we basically introduced this notion of identity to networking. And so the IP address now only does what it was originally intended to do, which is tell the rest of the network where a particular device is. But we give each device on our network a unique cryptographic identity, and then only allow those devices to communicate with other ones that they should.
Give us a couple examples of applications for your product.
Okay, let's just say that you run a big pipeline. All along those pipelines, any pipeline, once every 3 or 4 miles, there will be a bunch of controls, valves that open and close, and those devices, those controls, need to be connected somewhere. To do so securely along 10,000 miles of pipe, it's staggeringly expensive and complex using conventional tools. In this example, our customer simply puts one of our little gateways, replaces several other components that they used to use, and it gives them, completely secure, encrypted communications back to wherever they want it to go, whether it's to their own data center or to the cloud. Another example might be, let's take a really big thing that people are familiar with, aircraft.
Right.
And aircraft are part of the Internet of Things. They're several $100 billion, and most of them are connected. In fact, each time one pulls up to a gate, it needs to connect to a data center so it can upload its data from the last flight and the template for the next one. In the case of one of the biggest carriers in the US, if that data connection can't be made, then the plane is grounded. What we give that customer the ability to do is instantly fail over from a bad data connection to a good one, and to do that highly securely.
I think on your website you also had a cruise ship that was an application.
Another textbook example. So a cruise ship actually is like a great big floating building, lots and lots of systems. And they're all accessed by a variety of different vendors to make sure that those systems are operational for the length of the cruise. Mm-hmm. In this instance, there was a hack, and it was startling and scary, and our customer failed an audit, and what we were able to do is to help them solve their security problem and still provide secure communications to each one of their vendors. But once our equipment was installed, the vendor for the engines, for instance, could only communicate to the engines. The vendor for the navigational system can only get to the navigation system, rather than before, it was once a vendor was authenticated onto the ship, it could move anywhere. That's lateral movement, and that's a very bad thing, and that's a feature of TCP/IP.
Okay, well that makes sense. Can you quantify savings in time and dollars?
Well, in the cruise ship example, the difference was staggering. To use conventional technology, they would have had to put each ship into dry dock for 3 or 4 weeks. Those boats make $4 million a week per cruise, and so that all adds up, not to mention the cost of the gear. So we were less than 10% of the cost of the competing solution, and we were able to deploy while the cruise ship was underway, making money rather than being in dry dock.
And you sell your gateways. Do you also sell consulting services to put all this together, or installation, or ongoing support?
Yes, we do all of that.
Okay.
We sell our software, we sell subscriptions, and we also do professional services and support.
Okay. And what's your biggest challenge in your business?
Getting more customers.
Well, I was going to say you have a sophisticated story to tell, so it's going to take a little longer to tell your story. But once you get to that certain point with enough customers, the story will tell itself.
Well, it's increasingly becoming the case. People are resistant to change, but this is a problem of staggering enormity.
Yeah.
And so they're going to have to, because there aren't enough resources to effectively address the problem using the old way. And so that's why we're in business. It's the air wall. It's different than a firewall, and a lot easier and less expensive to deploy and maintain.
Yeah. Well, we're delighted to have you here at the Future in Review conference as a FiReStarter. What are your expectations for this next week?
Well, there's a lot of people, very interesting people in attendance, and I'm looking forward to meeting and learning from them, and meeting interesting folks like you and all the other ones. This is my first event, like my first FiReStarter.
Yeah. Jeff Hussey, and the company's name is Tempered Networks. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.